Some of the greatest songs ever made were once criticized, doubted, or completely misunderstood. Before they became timeless classics, critics dismissed them as too strange, too long, too different, or simply not good enough. But time proved something else. This is 10 songs critics got completely wrong. Number 10, Rocket Man, Elton John. When Rocket Man was released in 1972, it didn't immediately receive the universal praise it enjoys today. Some critics found it too slow, too introspective, and lacking the immediate impact expected from a hit single. Compared to more energetic tracks of the time, it felt distant and almost detached. But that distance is exactly what makes the song so powerful. Instead of telling a dramatic story, Rocket Man focuses on isolation, the emotional reality of someone living a life far removed from home. The space theme isn't really about science fiction, it's about loneliness, routine, and sacrifice. Elton John's calm, controlled vocal delivery adds to that feeling. There's no urgency, no explosion of emotion, just a quiet acceptance of a life that feels both extraordinary and empty. Over time, listeners began to connect with that subtlety. What once felt slow became reflective. What seemed distant became deeply human. Today, Rocket Man is seen as one of Elton John's most iconic songs, because sometimes what critics miss at first is exactly what makes a song timeless. Number 9, Bridge Over Troubled Water, Simon and Garfunkel. When Bridge Over Troubled Water came out in 1970, not everyone embraced it right away. Some critics thought it was too dramatic, too polished, and too far removed from the stripped-down folk sound Simon and Garfunkel were known for. To them, it felt overly sentimental, almost theatrical. But that's exactly why the song endured. It wasn't trying to be subtle, it was trying to comfort. Built around a slow, gospel-inspired piano progression, the song grows steadily into something almost spiritual. Art Garfunkel's vocal performance is gentle at first, then gradually becomes powerful and soaring, like someone lifting another person through pain. The lyrics are simple but deeply human. When life gets heavy, I'll be there for you. No irony, no complexity, just support. And sometimes that directness is what people need most. Over time, what critics once called too much became the reason listeners loved it. It was emotional, sincere, and unafraid to sound big. Today, Bridge Over Troubled Water is considered one of the greatest songs ever written. Because sometimes the songs critics call excessive are the ones that save people when they need them most. Number 8, Let's Stay Together, Al Green. When Let's Stay Together was released in 1971, not all critics immediately recognized its significance. Some saw it as just another smooth soul track, pleasant, romantic, but not groundbreaking. Compared to louder, more politically charged music of the time, it felt quiet and understated. But that subtlety is exactly what gave the song its lasting power. Al Green's vocal performance is controlled, intimate, and deeply expressive without ever becoming overwhelming. He doesn't need to shout to be heard. Every line feels personal, almost like a conversation. The message itself is simple: commitment, loyalty, and staying together through both good and difficult times. In an era filled with change and uncertainty, that message carried more weight than critics initially realized. The arrangement supports that feeling perfectly. The rhythm is steady, the instrumentation is smooth, and everything works together to create a sense of calm and reassurance. Over time, listeners began to appreciate what critics overlooked. Let's Stay Together wasn't trying to impress. It was trying to connect. And that's why it became one of the most beloved soul songs ever recorded, because sometimes the quietest songs are the ones that speak the loudest. Number 7. Papa Was a Rollin' Stone, The Temptations. When this song was released in 1972, critics were divided. Some thought it was too long, too slow, and too unconventional for mainstream success. At over 10 minutes in its full version, it broke the typical structure of popular music at the time. But that length was intentional. The slow build, the extended instrumental intro, and the layered production created an atmosphere that pulled listeners into the story. It wasn't meant to be immediate. It was meant to unfold. The lyrics tell a powerful narrative about a father who was absent and misunderstood, revealing truth piece by piece. Instead of offering clear answers, the song creates space for interpretation, making it feel more real and complex. The production also stood out. The haunting bass line, the steady rhythm, and the minimal vocals created a sense of tension that stayed consistent throughout. Over time, what critics saw as flaws became strengths. The song wasn't just music, it was storytelling at a deeper level. And today, it's recognized as one of the most influential soul recordings ever made. Because sometimes breaking the rules is what makes something unforgettable. Number 6, September, Earth, Wind & Fire. When September was released in 1978, some critics dismissed it as lightweight. They saw it as overly simple, repetitive, and lacking deeper meaning. Compared to more serious or complex songs, it was often labeled as just feel-good entertainment. But that's exactly what made it special. September wasn't trying to tell a heavy story. It was capturing a feeling. Joy, celebration, and memory all wrapped into one. The groove is tight, the horns are bright, and the rhythm is impossible to resist. The lyrics may seem simple, but they serve a purpose. Instead of focusing on detail, they create a universal moment, something anyone can connect with, even without knowing the full story behind it. That emotional accessibility is what critics missed. Over time, the song became one of the most recognizable and beloved tracks of its era. It's played at celebrations, events, and moments where people come together. Because it does something not every song can do, it makes people feel good instantly. And sometimes that's more powerful than complexity. Because the songs that last the longest are the ones people keep coming back to. Number 5, Dancing Queen, Prin ABBA. You are the dancing queen. When Dancing Queen was released in 1976, some critics didn't take it seriously. They saw it as polished pop, too clean, too commercial, and lacking the depth of other genres. For many, it was simply another catchy hit without lasting significance. But that perception didn't last. The song captures something universal, the feeling of being young, free, and completely in the moment. Its melody is bright, its rhythm is uplifting, and its production is carefully crafted to create a sense of movement and emotion. What critics overlooked was how precisely the song was built. Every detail, from the piano intro to the layered vocals, works together to create a timeless sound. It's not simple by accident. It's simple by design. For listeners, it became more than just a pop song. It became a memory, a moment, a feeling that could be revisited every time it played. Over time, Dancing Queen gained recognition as one of the greatest pop songs ever made, because sometimes what seems effortless is actually carefully perfected. Number 4, Hotel California, Eagles. When Hotel California was first released in 1977, some critics found it confusing. The lyrics were ambiguous, the story unclear, and the meaning open to interpretation. For those expecting something straightforward, it felt overly mysterious. But that ambiguity became its strength. The song creates a vivid atmosphere, inviting yet unsettling. It tells the story of a place that feels welcoming at first, but slowly reveals itself to be something darker. That duality keeps listeners engaged, encouraging them to interpret the meaning in their own way. Musically, it stands out for its structure and detail. The arrangement builds gradually, leading to one of the most iconic guitar solos in rock history. Every element contributes to the mood. Over time, the song became more than just a hit. It became a topic of discussion. People analyzed it, debated it, and kept returning to it. And that's why it lasted. Because sometimes the songs critics call confusing are the ones that keep people thinking the longest.
Makes me wonder, she does.
Number 3, Stairway to Heaven, Led Zeppelin. When Stairway to Heaven was released in 1971, it didn't follow any of the rules of a typical hit song. There was no clear chorus, no immediate hook, and it built slowly over several minutes. Some critics found it self-indulgent and overly ambitious. But that structure is exactly what made it legendary. The song unfolds like a journey. It starts quietly, almost gently, before gradually building into something powerful and intense. Each section feels like a step, leading toward a final release of energy. Lyrically, it's open to interpretation, adding to its mystique. Instead of telling a clear story, it invites listeners to find their own meaning. Over time, what once seemed excessive became iconic. The length, the build-up, and the complexity all contributed to its lasting impact. It became a staple of rock music, not because it was easy, but because it was different. And that's why it endures. Because sometimes the songs that don't follow the rules are the ones that define them. Number 2, Superstition, Stevie Wonder. When Superstition came out in 1972, some critics underestimated it. They saw it as a strong groove, but didn't fully recognize its innovation or long-term impact. It was catchy, yes, but not immediately viewed as groundbreaking. But that quickly changed. The song introduced a distinctive clavinet riff that became one of the most recognizable sounds in music. It wasn't just rhythm, it was identity. Every element of the track is tightly connected, creating a groove that feels both controlled and alive. Lyrically, the song addresses belief and misunderstanding, encouraging listeners to question what they accept without thinking. It adds a layer of meaning beneath the surface. Over time, Superstition became more than just a hit. It became a reference point. A song that influenced countless artists and defined a sound. Because what critics initially overlooked was how original it truly was. And that's why it remains one of Stevie Wonder's greatest works. Because sometimes innovation isn't immediately recognized until it becomes impossible to ignore.
Can music save your mortal soul? And
Number 1, American Pie, Don McLean.
the birds flew off with a fallout shelter.
At the top of the list is a song that critics once found too long, too complex, and too difficult to understand. When American Pie was released in 1971, its length alone made it unusual for radio, and its lyrics were filled with references that weren't immediately clear. But that complexity became its defining strength. The song isn't just a single story, it's a reflection of cultural change, loss, and the shifting landscape of music itself. Each verse adds another layer, inviting listeners to interpret its meaning in their own way. What critics saw as confusing, audiences saw as meaningful. It became a song people didn't just hear, they explored. Its structure, storytelling, and emotional depth allowed it to stand apart from everything else at the time. Over time, it became one of the most iconic songs ever recorded. Because sometimes, the songs that take the longest to understand are the ones that stay with you forever.